Hi friends, with the Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming soon, I started thinking about how the government of a recolonized Mandalore would look. In today's video, we're going to create a government and military structure for the United Houses of Mandalore.
Jake, you are majorly overthinking this.
You underestimate my power.
Hello there.
Before creating a new Mandalorian government, we first should look at Mandalorian history. During Star Wars The Clone Wars, Duchess Satine Kryze ruled a pacifist Mandalorian government as an overcorrection from their brutal warrior past. They actually had fought against the Jedi many times during Wars of Conquest, resulting in Mandalore becoming a wasteland, with the capital Sundari becoming a sealed biodome. This is why Count Dooku used Jango as the clone army template as part of the Order 66 plan. Now, there actually was a Mandalorian who became a Jedi, Tar Vizsla. After his death, his lightsaber, the Darksaber, was stolen from the Jedi Temple by his old house as a symbol of power. Now, without a proper outlet for Mandalorians who still believed in the warrior way, many, including Satine's sister Bo-Katan, joined a terrorist group, Death Watch, that aimed to restore a warrior government. They saw the small Mandalorian guard who policed Sundari as weak. Death Watch believed the rightful ruler of Mandalore should be a warrior strong enough to win the Darksaber in single combat, which was currently being held by its leader, Pre Vizsla, a descendant of Tar Vizsla, and the governor of the moon Concordia where they were exiled. Vizsla eventually allied with Darth Maul's Shadow Collective and the corrupt Prime Minister Almec to lead a coup on Satine. They created a false flag attack on Sundari, with Death Watch saving the day, gaining widespread support, resulting in Pre Vizsla establishing himself as ruler before turning on Maul. However, Maul defeated Pre Vizsla in single combat, winning the Darksaber and the right to rule. Maul used his power to seek revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi by killing Satine in front of him. Bo-Katan was horrified, as she only wanted to replace her sister with a stronger Mandalorian ruler, not have her killed. Bo and her moderate faction of Death Watch members refused to acknowledge Maul, an outsider and a murderer, as the rightful ruler, and instead fled, contemplating the error of their ways. Bo was able to convince Ahsoka Tano and the Republic to send a task force to help defeat Maul, since he was an enemy of the Republic, making Mandalore no longer a neutral party. However, a liberated Mandalore was short-lived, as Order 66 was given while Maul was being transported to Coruscant, turning the clones from liberators into occupiers. Now, after the Clone Wars, Mandalore was ruled by Gar Saxon, a Palpatine-appointed viceroy, as seen in Star Wars Rebels. Bo-Katan eventually rallied with Sabine of Clan Wren, the Mandalorian protectors of Conquer Dawn, and Phoenix Cell of the Rebel Alliance to depose Gar Saxon. Bo was given the Darksaber from Sabine, who won it from Maul, to become a symbol of her new rule. However, this too was short-lived, as the Empire then bombed the rest of Mandalore in the Night of a Thousand Tears, and began directly ruling it through Moff Gideon, who stole the Darksaber from Bo-Katan somewhere off-screen. Bo learned too late what the Rebel Alliance learned from similar tragedies, and that is, guerrilla warfare is the only way to fight the Empire, not through holding territory. The remaining clans then fractured into hidden covert cults even after the fall of the Empire, with Imperial remnants still controlling Mandalore. Now, during the New Republic era, instead of Bo-Katan learning that leadership being based off of single combat is dumb, she instead refused to accept the Darksaber again from Din Djarin when he beat Moff Gideon at the end of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Bo and her lieutenants blamed their loss on a curse, since Bo did not win the saber in single combat. In Season 3, Bo was only able to rally enough Mandalorians to retake Mandalore, with Din Djarin wielding the Darksaber as ruler. The Darksaber was thankfully destroyed during the retaking. However, Din Djarin's covert, the Children of the Watch, were still able to reunite with Bo-Katan's Night Owls. Din and Grogu then settled into a homestead gifted to them on Navarro for liberating the planet from pirates. We don't know yet what occurs between here and the Rise of Skywalker, but somewhere along the line a new Mandalorian coalition government likely formed. Now this is where we come in. With the Darksaber destroyed and the prior extremism of the Children of the Watch tempered, hopefully Bo will see that balance can be struck between the warrior ways and a functional government. Since the previous parliamentary government failed and the new Mandalorians consisted of multiple colonies, I believe this new government will be a constitutional republic with a strong president and a militia system for defense due to their warrior culture. I think it would look something like a combination of the US during westward expansion mixed with its founding. I call this the United Houses of Mandalore. The framework of this new United Mandalore is a federal republic model, balancing central authority with the independence of the great houses and the individual warrior. The right to rule is now based on a constitution rather than the Darksaber. It is a self-sustaining system with federal taxes being fueled by tariffs, privateering, and mercenary contracting. The government is divided between three branches: the executive, consisting of a president and cabinet members; the legislative, consisting of a House-elected Senate and a people-elected council; and a judiciary consisting of the High Court of Mandalore and lower courts. Also, due to the militant nature of Mandalorian clans, law enforcement in the court system will be independent of any clan affiliation, instead being based on geographic divisions and cities. We will also follow the Alexander Hamilton idea of using a part-time militia system for defense, but with the addition of a full-time special corps in service to the federal government. Law enforcement from the federal level is separate from defense and consists mostly of marshals in service to the judiciary. However, by the end of the sequels, the population will likely be strong enough to support additional small executive agencies limited in scope. This would include things like Treasury and Beskar inspectors, natural resource wardens, intelligence agencies, and the Internal Security Ministry. Internal security consists of the Ports, Customs, and Immigration Fleet and its troopers, as well as the Foundling Protection Service, focused on slavery and trafficking of children. All other law enforcement is done through joint task forces with the houses. At the lower levels, law enforcement is more consolidated with defense, much like the National Guard. The lower courts still include marshals and also provide full-service law enforcement at the local level alongside city guards. However, the houses have the colonial protectorate. Much like the protectors of Conquer Dawn, they are a gendarmerie that acts as both law enforcement and defense for the houses. Now, at the individual level, every Mandalorian clan is part of the militia, but wealthier and younger Mandalorians with better equipment and more time for training act as Minutemen. For weaponry, Mandalore would likely use a mix of domestic and galactic manufacturers. Concordian Crescent Technologies is a high-end Mandalorian company that produces blaster pistols, carbines, and wrist weaponry that are the envy of every Mandalorian. This included the Westar 34 and 35 pistol used by Jango Fett and Deathwatch, as well as the Galar 15 blaster carbine and the lesser-known ZE-11 scattergun. My expeditionary forces and wealthy Mandalorians would use these. Now, most Mandalorians after the Clone Wars were more familiar with Blastech and Mersan designs than mercenary and bounty hunter work. Mandalorians loved their JT-12 jetpacks and EE-3 blaster carbines, as we saw Boba Fett and the Mandalorians who saved Din Djarin used. However, they also love heavy weapons and explosives, so they likely also use RPS-6 rockets, MPL-57 grenade launchers, frag grenades, and thermal detonators. You'd also likely see DLT-19 heavy blaster rifles and the DLT-19X variant targeting blaster. And you'd potentially see crew-served weapons like the E-Web, but there may be some trauma from the Empire using these. Also, many Mandalorians anyway preferred personal weapons over crew-served, especially when using their jetpacks. They could carry heavy loads. Paz Vizsla, for instance, preferred the M55 medium repeating blaster. Din Djarin's favorite blasters included the DL-21 blaster pistol and the War Crime disintegrator rifle, which I would not make these standard issue. I think Mandalorians would support weapon bans as long as they also applied to the federal forces too. I guarantee Paz and Din would only sign the Constitution with this stipulation. Now, as a quick reaction force, I would create the Mandalorian Expeditionary Corps. They would look very similar to US Army Rangers. Mandalorians historically prefer air assaults or cavalry charges using jetpacks or mounts. They rarely use infantry fighting vehicles since their Beskar armor protected them better than slow-moving vehicles that would be way too expensive to play with Beskar. They focus on shock and awe and outmaneuvering their enemies with overwhelming speed and firepower, preferring handheld heavy weapons over tanks and artillery. Ground vehicles in general were rare since the days of the Neo-Crusaders riding Basilisk war droids as mechanical mounts. Any modern ground vehicle would need to be fast enough to keep up with jetpacks, have a quick rate of fire, and be able to be carried by Bo-Katan's cruisers. To me, that means small repulsor tanks. I think the Trexler Marauder from Mandalorian Season 1, combined with the TX-130 from the Clone Wars, would be our largest combined arms cavalry force. I think we would supplement these with the hovercraft variant of the Imperial Occupier tank from Star Wars Rebels, as this would be perfect for urban fighting. It was essentially movable cover, with its flat bed being perfect for jetpack Mandalorians to fly off of, or to deploy mortars from. Now onto our next unit. The Outriders would be our recon forces and generally use jetpacks, Bilotar swoop bikes, or ATRT walkers for speed and maneuverability. The swoop was Mandalorian produced, but the ATRT seems to me a great replacement for the War Basilisk and is more agile. We've already seen it in the trailer for the Mandalorian and Grogu, with Din Djarin riding it, so why not continue to do so? As a support vehicle and for small clans, the Aero 23 Speeder would be perfect due to its speed and its construction being meant for hunting in harsh environments. A single laser cannon or missile turret is plenty for this role. Overall, I believe the focus would be on spacecraft, though. The most well-known ships being the Combat-class fighter transport and Fang fighter. These are Mandal Mortars-produced ships and be perfect for deploying jetpack troops and maintaining air superiority. We've seen these multiple times in the Clone Wars and The Mandalorian. Now, the Gazanti cruiser would carry supplies, ground vehicles, or docked Fang fighters, as we saw Bo-Katan use in her fleet to retake Mandalore. Most colonies would likely have at least one of each of these vessels. Now, for customs enforcement, the Lancer Pursuit Craft is perfect for chasing down ships with its tractor beam, and the Akajor-class shuttle is great at ferrying marshals and one of the only Mandalorian-produced shuttles that we saw in the Clone Wars. Similar to this, police would use the Burkalor Police Speeder, also seen in the Clone Wars and Sindari. All three of these are Mandalorian-produced and perfect for maintaining internal security. Now, for the Colonial Protectorate and for the privateer fleets and above, we need a little bit more powerful ships. The Fang is great at dogfighting, but only has one hidden torpedo, so I would need to supplement them with some sort of fighter bomber. I think for this role, the Y-Wing would be perfect. This is one of the few ships the New Republic would continue to buy as the BTA NR2 variant with a reduced armament, but with increased sensors and an upgraded Class 1 hyperdrive. However, since the Mandalorians were not part of the Republic, they could upgrade their ordnance however they wanted, just like the Resistance did. Now, for larger ships, I think Bo would stick with Carillion Engineering Corporation, since she already used the Gazanti. For this, the CR-90 Corvette and its sister, the DP-20, would be perfect for privateer fleets. As a frigate, the Free Virgilia-class Bunker Buster, another CEC ship, would also be perfect. It could tuck a squadron of bombers or starfighters and add a payload of 3 heavy plasma bombs to supplement its turbo lasers and point defense lasers. It also only had a crew of 23, making this the perfect orbital strike platform for a nation that cannot afford or accrue Star Destroyers. Now for our flagship, I believe the Mon Cala-produced MC-40A would be a perfect replacement for the destroyed Imperial light cruiser. The MC-40 shielding could take some punishment, and it also had enough firepower to take out any pirates, as well as carry a ground strike team and up to 12 starfighters. Supporting this would be the Solistan Quasar carrier. The Quasar would supplement this with up to 48 starfighters. It could act as a rally point for individual Mandalorian militia pilots to meet. Both were also produced by nearby planets, streamlining logistics. Together, I think this would be the perfect mobile force for Bo-Katan. So there you have it, folks. This is how I believe a reunified Mandalorian nation could look. I hope we see something like this in the future, but if not, you can always come back and overgeek your own version with us. And as always, this is the way.